Hi, Errin. Welcome to the show.
Jerry, oh my gosh, thank you, girl. This is gonna be so good.
This
Thank
is
you,
gonna be
thank you, Jerry.
so good. So we're like, I don't know, you're like me or something. When we first met, I feel like we connected so intimately and we're so aligned with our vision and how we help others. And especially that we both are in this space where we're helping people really break free from diet mindset and just the change that diet really has on us and as a reflection of our self-image and truly our value. I think that this work is beautiful and so incredibly important, and I thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this mission with me. And so before we get started, maybe let's just talk about your story, Errin.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, you and I could go, our souls just light up. So I love this so much. Yeah, similar to you, I was, Miss Athlete, health nut for the majority of my 20s and 30s and had my own rock bottom. Because I was so fit, just health nut, fitness nut, looking at all the health and fitness, but nothing else. And that's what tanked me. And we'll get into it. And that's what brought me to What We Crave. But, a quick backstory of my childhood was it's pretty interesting. It's kind of a perfect emotional eating recipe. You can just see it all wiring itself. As a kid, I was so skinny and scrawny. I couldn't gain weight, so I was always eating to try and gain weight just to look normal and be pretty like the girls in, 7th, 8th grade. You just want to fit in, and I got made fun of a lot and couldn't ever. I just want to be normal. So I was always eating, and then I played basketball, so my dad was like, "Let's bulk you up. You got to put some meat on your bones." And also growing up as a little kid, I grew up Goonies lifestyle, like Costco lifestyle, just processed food everywhere. But that was like rich kid food, it was like, oh, we got Costco muffins and red vines. And, so I was always eating and never nourished, always eating, never nourished. And because my body was just craving whole food, as you know. So you take that plus being skinny and scrawny, not being able to gain weight, being an athlete, and then having a dad that never talked to you when you needed to have a family talk. It was always suppressed, never talk about it. If I'm mad at you, I'm going to stonewall you and not talk to you for a week. And everything was always swept under the rug. So I never learned to voice my emotions. And also grew up in a very religious household. My dad was very hardcore Christian. So it was like, if you're not perfect and you don't do what I say, you're going to go to hell. You're going to do all this. That's a whole nother conversation. So I learned at a very young age to suppress my emotions, eat all the things. And just when I wasn't eating, that was weird. So I was always eating, and then shit would happen and I would suppress and eat more. And then, carrying into your 20s and 30s and you get into really stressful jobs, that's all I would do is I would eat, suppress, eat, suppress, eat, suppress. And I just didn't have the tools to know how to process my emotions and to know what to do when that kind of thing hit, to understand my childhood wiring, to understand all of it. I had no idea. So then fast forward, I get into the health space. I get really passionate about health and fitness, had my own health scare that brought me into health and fitness big time, and almost died. Like, it was a grand mal seizure, freak accident. So I was very respectful of my vessel. Like, from that point on, I was so into health. And so when you get extreme into health, you go all in, just like, like how we do with our workouts. We love our workouts. We go all in. I emotionally eat, I go all in. So that's sort of my wiring in all the ways. And so, I go all in on health. I go all in on my career. I'm like, I'm living in California beast mode, like career woman, just like go, 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 go. You can sleep when you die. And then I started attracting narcissist bosses, even though they were in the health space, still were working for people that I managed to attract really narcissistic people who would test my boundaries and who would test my own self-worth. And so looking back, it all makes sense, right? Because it brings me to our purpose. But again, those bosses would just light me up like a Christmas tree. I had this visceral response, and I'd go eat, I'd go eat, I go eat, I go eat. And I came to this point where I had gotten, well, here's sort of a rock bottom photo of me. I don't know if you can see my gut. That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
me pregnant. That's me with leaky gut. And then you
This
can
looks
see
like
my,
this looks like a good 7, 8 months pregnant.
oh yeah, people legit thought I was pregnant. I was like, I'm like, no, no, I don't know if you can see my face or not, but I was so puffy and inflamed here. this is sort of the after picture, but I was so puffy and inflamed. You can see this is,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yeah, before the summit and after the summit. I was so puffy. This was me. I took a selfie of myself and I was like, what is going on with me?
Right.
I am the most athletic, fitness fanatic, healthiest, quote unquote. I know this, I know all these things about health. I've worked with these amazing doctors, and yet I'm still numbing out with food. And I am still eating all the things. I am literally the worst, the height of my career and the height of my knowledge, but yet I am the worst just in what I'm embodying. I am a stressed out, complete, just train wreck.
Right.
And so that brought me to What We Crave, because I just said, I got to figure this out. Something else is deeper. Something else is going on. I know way too much and I'm still struggling. What is going on? So I interviewed all the doctors that I'd worked with in my career. And I said, I'm getting to the bottom of this. And What We Crave was born. And I figured out that it has nothing to do with food. It's all these other deep things, which you and I totally jam on. And here we are. So that's the long story short.
Wow. I love this conversation because from the outside, everyone is probably like, Errin, how do you do it all? Errin, you're so fit. Show me how you do it and how are you like that? And you're so lucky and it's so perfect. And really on the inside, there's this internal struggle. And especially with just that one part of you that's dealing with all those bottled up emotions and past traumas and just learning to really sit with your emotions. And then the other part of you, which has to show up as your highest self, as this fitness influencer. And so I know for me, and we spoke about this as well, there was this internal battle because you're dealing with your own stuff, but you have to also in some ways keep that to yourself at first because you're also serving all of these other people. And how could
Yep.
you be that person when, like you were saying, you know all the things, you've done all the things, you've learned all the things, and you're still in that space of struggling. And so much to unpack here around what you shared, and just hearing you share this story, I do feel you're struggling, especially around the gut health. And what's super interesting is there's this emotional component that is attached to the out of control eating, and then there's this other part which is actually the physical ailments of that negative impact that gut health is creating for you. And so before we get into that, I'm just super curious how you got into fitness. What drew you into that space?
Yeah, I have always, it's always just been in me. I was in sports ever since I was fifth grade. I think I started basketball, volleyball, and I just was naturally good at it. My dad's very athletic, my mom's very athletic. And I naturally, when all the rich kids were doing the clubs and
Mm.
the sports on the side during off season, I wasn't. I was just being a kid. And I, because I was that good naturally, I just naturally progressed into high school, college. And then I really discovered beach volleyball when I moved down to California. I discovered yoga and beach sprints and paddleboarding. And I just remember it when everyone was at the bar on Sunday, I was out on the beach doing sprints, and it just was in me. And it just is, if I could do it all over again, I'd probably be a wake surfer or a volleyball player, because it's just in me. And when you're in California and everyone's active, the sun's out, you just want to be active. It just lights your soul up. And so I was just continually just lit up all day, every day. My body just craved it. And I never stopped. And I think that's the piece is, we feel so good when we work out and we think we have it figured out. We feel like, oh, I got this. Like you just eat healthy and then just work out all the time. And I was completely avoiding everything else because it was like, well, I feel so good, I got it figured out, right? And then here we are. Yeah.
Right, right. And so
Yeah.
when did the emotional eating start? Was that pre finding fitness, or was that sort of something that you were dealing with in the past, or did that become amplified as soon as you became more immersed into that world and more information around nutrition and diets?
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I always would eat all the things. A pan of, Christmas cookies, I would just go after it. I think it's the sugar that,
Mm.
as a kid, you're a bottomless pit. And I also wasn't eating real food. So I think I was always just craving food. But then I think it was from an emotional, where you have the F it moment where you're so emotionally triggered. That's when it kicked in. It was always there. It was always my crutch because of my wiring as a kid. It was always my crutch, but then it really hit the rock bottoms of like the something is seriously happening, was when I was at my national sales manager, just the executive level positions. that's when I noticed I'm just constantly reaching for food, because I was on airplanes, in hotel rooms, no hugs, no connection. I would work out, but then I would go to the office all day where it's fluorescent lights and no hugs and just stress, numbers, numbers. I was in sales. So it was like numbers, numbers, numbers. You're never good enough. If you don't make your numbers, you're going to get axed. Like, you're done, like that kind of hardcore. So that's when it was like, oh my God, I don't know. I'm gonna get fired all day. That's all you're thinking is just, I'm gonna get fired. So you don't know what to do with the emotions, instead of going, no, I know who I am. You're just trying to like push so you can get, make more money, whatever. Instead of doing that, I was like, oh my God, okay, okay, okay. And I worked till 3, 4 a.m. just to,
Wow.
just for what? My gold star. And then that's when the food became my crutch, because that's all I knew. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
generally when we're looking at an emotional eating cycle, there's a trigger that comes from the environment. So there's something in the
Yep.
environment that's stressful or some emotion that is difficult to handle. And oftentimes there's also this vulnerability factor. So we have this trigger. However, this trigger gets amplified if I'm exhausted, if I'm more stressed
Yep.
at work, if I'm fighting with my partner, and it becomes easier to become triggered. And so we're triggered with this particular emotion, and we're in this place where we don't know what to do with this emotion. It's an uncomfortable feeling, and to sit in it, in this dysregulated emotion, because we can't handle it, is something we want to escape immediately. And so we search for a substance. Sometimes it's food, sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's drugs or shopping or anything that gives us
Shopping.
that instant gratification and pleasure, because what the body's doing is it's trying to regulate itself. It's trying to bring it into homeostasis and balance pain and pleasure essentially. But then what happens is we start to get into this binge eating pattern or out of control eating pattern. For some people, it's this, sitting down in one moment and eating all of the things until you're very, very ill. And for others, it's out of control throughout the day. Or I just ate and then all of a sudden still triggered by food and still continuing to eat. But ultimately, that cycle brings us into this long term consequence, and that triggers another secondary emotion, which again is dysregulated, and we're found that we're back into that cycle. And so this can happen when we're stress eating, when we've been dieting too much, when we've been restricting for too long, and suddenly triggered by that piece of cake that I had that was not allowed on my diet, and now I feel bad about it and I feel guilty and shameful. And so for you, Errin, what was that experience like? Like, just walk us through what that typical out of control eating experience was for you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just remember, I'm going to take you back to one of my first hardcore memories. I was sitting all day on my computer making sales calls to make my quota, and I remember I would just get up, go to the fridge, get up, go to the fridge, and I would just look inside. And I'm like, what am I doing here again? And then I remember I would make the protein balls, like the healthy treat protein balls, where it's like oats and peanut butter and maple syrup and protein and dark chocolate and sea salt, right? And I would just start to inhale those things. And because it's like, well, it's healthy and
It's
and
three
it's not
calories. I can have as many as I want.
right, because it's healthy and it's organic and it's non-GMO, gluten-free, right? And it was going down. I would make a bowl and they would be gone in a few days. I'm not joking. And that's where my gut would get so jacked, because I was also doing bulletproof coffee. That's when keto was in style, or not in style, but that's when keto for me, I was learning about keto and loving keto because I was so depleted in fat from my other extreme diets, in my 20s. I was so depleted in fat. When I would eat all the fat, I would feel amazing. So I went all in on that. And, it was from South Beach to keto, big jump.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh my God, fat doesn't make you fat, because that's what everyone says. And fat is healthy for you and good for you. So I would just all day. Then I'd have the bulletproof coffee. Then I have the protein balls. Then I go out to eat for lunch and dinner. Then I have like a paleo, donut. And then I would feel so stuffed and my gut would be so just that I was like, oh, it's just digesting. It's just the fiber, and I was in a lot of denial at that point, or just, I didn't have awareness, I was like, it's fine. It's just got to digest. I just need some enzymes. And then I would shame fast it off, because what
Mm.
would happen is, and I coined this term, I'm very proud of it. It's because I had so much shame because I would eat all the things. Oh, then I'd go get probiotic yogurt, which was full fat dairy, which I can't digest dairy. And I was like, it's fine because it's keto and I'm in ketosis. So I would, go eat this full fat dairy that's straight cream, basically from
Wow.
the farm. and I had SIBO from that. I gained like 30 pounds pretty quickly, and that's with all my workouts. So you can tell how much extra fat my body was like, girl, we don't need all of this. Like, we're good. And it wasn't, just a calorie surplus, like beyond, I wasn't even counting it. It was beyond, just way too much fat that I couldn't even digest it. So my gut was just leaking. Then I would get so shameful because I'm this health nut, and yet I'm like, I just continue to get like this, that I would shame fast it off. And I would go on a bone broth fast. This has happened multiple times, for 5-7 days, because I've done
Oh,
bone broth
wow.
fasting. It's very good for your health.
Yeah.
It's amazing for your gut. It's amazing to get rid of all the bad cells in your body. And I learned about that, so I use that as an excuse to go, I just am so embarrassed that I'm going to go fast this off. And even though, again, yes, the fast is good for you, but the intentions, I was shameful, and it was basically a disordered eating cover up. It was a cover up for I just want to lose the weight, and I'm going to go on a crash diet, essentially. And that happened so that I would get into deep ketosis, because when you fast, you get into ketosis. And I was like, well, I got to stay in ketosis. So I would eat all the fat again. And I was in it for months, years, for 3 years. And then I finally got to this point, and I was just like, I got to get off this freaking hamster wheel. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier when you were younger, you weren't really struggling with weight. You were actually always trying to
Yeah.
put on weight. And so when was that first intro then to dieting?
I never, well, the diet part, because yeah, I was trying to gain weight my whole life. And then I think college, I started to fill out. It started to catch up with me because I was eating just
Right.
cinnamon rolls and pizza. And, I'm never going to get fat because I can't gain weight.
Right.
Then I started to go from a size 4 to a 12, like, an Abercrombie jeans, and that's maybe a 10, 12. Yeah. But I was tall. So I hit it well because I was
Right.
tall. So then I was just noticing my whole body it was like, well, this is now, I just started to become aware of, oh, I'm eating a lot, like 5,000 calories. I don't, just,
Right.
and then I learned, oh, if you eat a salad, you lose weight. So I just started eating salads, and the weight came off. And granted, I didn't know anything about anything. I was just learning, there was really nothing, there wasn't really there was no Instagram back then. There was no knowledge. It was just, oh, if I eat a salad, I lose weight. So then right after that, so I lost the weight, had a boyfriend. So my first boyfriend. So I got really into like working out with him, and then I moved to California, and I go, oh, this is a whole lifestyle down here. Oh, wow. And then I noticed, oh, what are they eating? What are they eating? So it was really more South Beach. I had a trainer at that point, and it was South Beach, and it was drop all your fat. Fat's bad for you. Let's drop all of it. And that's where I really started to diet and count my calories.
Mhm.
I got very skinny. I tried being vegan because I noticed everyone was being vegan. So, oh my gosh. And I noticed I would kill myself. Beach sprints, volleyball, just go, 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 just your adrenals are just going hardcore. You're having fun. You're outside all day. You're like, oh, I feel so good. And oh, my calories were only 1,500. And it wasn't like I was punishing myself. I just was like, oh, I'm learning about this, and
Mhm.
this is this. Okay. And this is this. And then, but I took that extreme, and I went South Beach too long. I had, my fat got down to like 5 grams of fat a day because
Oh,
fat was
wow.
bad and I was losing weight. So then I lost my period for a year because I was vegan and didn't have any fat. So no wonder when keto came next, no wonder I went all in on that, because my body was like, girl, you need some fat. I remember my holistic practitioner was like, girl, go eat a steak, get some saturated fat in your body. Your brain can eat. I was so anxious because I had no fat in my brain to regulate my system. So I had major anxiety. I was just kind of scattered all day long. And then I got into keto, and then it went from there. Yeah. So that the dieting was probably 28, 29, or I would say, yeah, 27. Yeah. When it was
Wow.
South Beach. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so intense, and especially just from that extreme, right? The macronutrient breakdown just from one extreme to the next, and the amount of havoc it can create on the body. Super interesting, and also super interesting how most diets demonize a particular food group or a
Yep.
particular style of eating, and that's really the harm. And I love what you were saying earlier about how, well, all of these things could potentially be healthy for you, but it's this all or none approach, this extreme approach that becomes very detrimental to our health, and especially to just the psychology of food and our relationship with food. And so what was your relationship with food at this time, Erin? Just going from
Yeah.
both extremes, were, and especially with all of the knowledge that you knew, were you confused around things, or did you have a set of rules around how you were eating?
From what I can remember, I think because in the health industry, you just learn so much. You just want to try everything. And then
Right.
if that works, then you go all in on it. But for me, I remember my friends all started the calorie counting, the apps, and we would every single piece of food we would put in our mouth, it was, oh my God, I gotta log that. Oh my God. Okay, my macros are not perfect. Oh my God, this is da da da. And I was like, oh yeah, when I'm perfect with my macros, I lose weight. Okay. And so it was more like log your macros,
Mm.
and if you, eat something, oh shit, you better go run it off. So it was more, I wasn't punishing myself with food. I really loved the perfectionism of like, oh, I did my macros perfectly. And but it was more the shame afterwards. I mean, all my girlfriends at that time were like, oh my God, I ate 2 servings of that. And, again, none of us, they were all doing cardio, no weights, again, there's a whole thing with food and what you can eat when you actually have muscle, and just, it's a whole different thing versus, cardio. But, we didn't know. We didn't know. And so I think it was just who can be the most perfect
Mm.
is like, that's, with the apps. But it was never punishing until I was really struggling with the keto and the fasting. But it was more just be perfect, because that's what everyone does here in California. And if you're not perfect, then you're not going to get a boyfriend, and, just all of the bullshit stories. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
really just that attachment of your value on how you look and how much you weight, and that
Oh
you're
yeah.
following what everyone else is doing, right? That's really
Oh
the
yeah.
greatest I think influencer. And we always talk about environment being such a massive influence to us, especially who we're spending time with, right? What
Yeah.
we're hearing, what they're doing. And of course, like you're saying, it becomes this competition and this ultimate standard that everybody's living by.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, in Orange County, that's like the mecca of perfection, and so that definitely played a role. I remember seeing a lot of these women with a lot of just plastic surgery, and again, I'm nothing against it. It's just you would see a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of fake boobs, a lot of perfect bodies, and just like in Miami, just there's pockets of that, and that really does it subconsciously. It plays an effect on you, where you're coming from a place of lack versus a place of worthiness for sure. There's hot guys. Well, all these guys that are hot on the beach, they have their pick. So you got to make sure that you're in, this prime condition, because they need to pick you. So it's that being chosen, which is the worthiness piece that we talk about. So yeah, oh yeah, it's all in there. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about the gut health, because this is such a passionate conversation for me,
Yeah.
especially just that importance of gut health, and how we don't realize that our gut is responsible not only for our immune system, but also our mood. And essentially, it's that place where we either hold on to things or release things energetically when it comes to even relationships and things in our environment. And so when did that struggle start? Was it when you started keto, or was it when you found yourself overindulging in all the healthy, 0 calorie keto things?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember my earliest memory, because I think I can honestly say I've always had the pooch, and I just thought it was just normal. Like it was always just, well, that's just how I am, you know? And but it really got escalated, because that was before I was weight training, and again, that was when I was still in the learning process, eating processed food, sugar. We've all had antibiotics and uh sugar and alcohol. So at that point, I think my gut just, I wasn't getting given it any love or support. So I think it was always just kind of bloated, because I didn't know about gut health, how that's the center of the universe. Then once I actually started learning, I got my gut healthier and was bringing in a few amazing supplements that are just game changers for leaky gut. But I noticed when it got bad, it was when I was eating all of the snacks with the erythritol, the
Mm.
processed keto healthy snacks with the erythritol, the fake sugars, the protein bars, dude, the protein bars. We think the protein bars are so good for us. And granted, yes, if you're traveling and you're starving every once in a while, I get it. But man, I would eat those things every day. I would have four during my out of control eating, like rage eating, was 4 bulletproof bars a day. And those things are so delicious. They tasted like I can't even tell. They're just so good. And I would eat 4 of those a day. That's full of cashews and
Right.
MCT oil. And I think it was stevia at that point, but I would eat 4 of those plus keto cookies. And it was all the processed stuff and the digestion of all of the processed stuff and the artificial sugars or the erythritols, all that were, that was the beginning of it. And then it escalated with adding dairy, and it was a probiotic yogurt that was full fat dairy, like I was saying before. And it made my gut, I mean, I felt amazing, but it just made the whole thing explode. And then it just progressively got worse with the stress on top of that.
100%.
So I think it was building over my whole life. And then it just became just the perfect storm. And it just, yeah. And that's the photo that you saw. That was on a regular basis. I would have to wear sweatshirts just to cover it up and like inhale just to even look halfway normal, because it was just like that all the time. And I thought that was normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just how it looked, but how did you feel?
Oh yeah. I felt just gross. I mean, I'm not trying to shame my body, but when I think of the emotion that is just, I just felt gross. But I was so in a state of just a shitty, dark, emotionally quicksand, yuck place in my life where I was so unhappy with my job, my stress levels, my life in general. I was in a lot of debt because I would also, like you said, I'd go shopping on top of the food eating. I would go shopping, put myself in a lot of debt for the dopamine, YOLO, F it, I deserve this. So I was in this yucky space and I just felt stuck. And I just, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And because I remember I would feel so stuck and then I would eat the food to feel better. And then you have I feel stuck again. I'm going to eat more food to feel better. Even though I'd go to the gym, but because when your gut is off, everything's off, And then I started working on it and taking some supplements. And then finally just came to me, maybe I just don't need this much fat. Maybe it's too many nuts. It just took me a while to even listen to myself and go, maybe it's all this fat. Maybe I don't do well with dairy. Then I did a genetic test. Oh yeah, I don't digest dairy. So, yeah. Yeah. But it was very, I went into hiding. I had a lot of shame. I went into hiding and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. But I didn't want to go out at night. I didn't want to only see my friends unless we're in sweatpants. Cause that's all I could wear was sweatpants, and you don't want to date anybody. You don't feel sexy. It's just, yeah, that's what I was feeling. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so connecting with everything that you're saying because I've gone through something very, very similar too. And this was also around 2019. This was when my mom passed away, but the years that came before that, that was when my mom was diagnosed. We knew she was stage 4, and this was something I kept to myself because at that time I had a gym, I had hundreds of clients coming in and out. I was working with so many people, and the last thing I wanted was to be reminded on a daily basis, how's your mom doing? So I kept this to myself. It was just this thing that I was going through, and my baseline emotion during that time was anger. I was just angry at the whole world. I was angry at her for being sick. I was angry at her for not taking action sooner. I was just angry. And so this was all bottling up inside me. And of course, I'm on that journey of what is the best diet, and then came across the vegan diet because there's these documentaries on Netflix and everybody's saying we should not be eating meat and all these things. And of course, being in the health field for over 20 years, like you were saying, you try all the things before I share with my athletes. I'm going to try all the things. And so I started eating the vegan lifestyle. And essentially, because of the amount of exercise I was doing, the amount of calories I was exerting naturally in my day, I was eating a lot of food. And as you know, that doesn't contain a lot of calories. It's mostly fiber. And so I'm trying my best to get as much nutrients as I can from salads and vegetables. And the volumes I was eating was ridiculous. Like I would start with these small bowls of salad that ended up being these massive, massive family-sized serving bowls that nobody ever finishes. But that was the bowl that I ate out of. And so this was going on for a while. And so that, coupled with all of the emotional distress that I had going on with my mom, and then when she passed, I had massive, massive gut issues. And you're showing me those photos of you. Like this was my day today. Like my stomach was constantly expanded and puffed. And what was worse than that was how I felt, right? I would even have to sit out of movies with my kids because I'd always have to leave the room to relieve myself. Like I couldn't even sit through an hour and a half movie. I would be up in the middle of the night with immense cramps and pain in my gut. And it was interesting because I wasn't eating any junk food. I was actually just really eating massive volumes of fiber and all these foods in such large quantities at one time. and then also not dealing with all the emotional distress that I had going on. And so it was really, it took me some time to just finally realize that I have to make some changes, and some of that was addressing the emotions and what was going on in my environment. But then the other part of it was really looking at the nutrition and just asking myself, like, how does this make me feel? And it wasn't until I realized that I had a problem where I'd be on a conversation like this and all of a sudden start to lose what I was about to say. I would just start forgetting things. Yeah, I was getting that foggy brain feeling, which is that the sign that you have a leaky gut. And it was only then that I started to take action. I'd be in the middle of a conversation, all of a sudden, like, I would just go blank. That freaked me out. And I was like, oh my God, this must be what it's like when you have Alzheimer's. And that's what really, I got to that point, and that's what really made me take action. But I love what you say, Errin, that it's not about the food. And that's what's really important, is it's not about the food, it's about the other stuff. Because that same behavior, we see it elsewhere. We see it with drugs, we see it with shopping, and especially that we know how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's so important, anyone listening who's struggling with this, I just want to tell you that diet and exercise is not your solution. And if you're still continuing to restrict, you have to stop. And if you're still continuing to think certain foods are good and certain foods are bad, that's not the answer. And the more we continue down this path, the more we get stuck in that cycle. But what we have to do is back up and ask ourselves, what is truly going on in my environment? Yep. Because our second center, which is what governs the gut, that's what we need to address. And we have to address what's going on in our relationships. We have to address what's going on in our stress environment, in our work environment, because if we don't, we're consistently going to be stuck in that cycle. And so, Errin, for you, how did you start to connect with that emotion that you were explaining in the beginning, and how did you start to work through that to get to the place where you are right now?
Yeah, man, I call it the universe likes to send like a little wink and a shoulder tap, then a little pebble, then a boulder, then a cosmic 2x4, then a rock bottom, to be like, girl, no, wake up. You got work to do. Like, what, pay attention, and we're always like, I'm good. It was years of building up before I finally started to listen. And that was my, I remember it was the worst work scenario I've ever had in my life, one with this face. And I remember, my FaceTime would ring and I would answer it on my computer, and it took a shot. I saw a shot of myself on my phone like this. And like my face was so bloated and depressed, and I looked dead inside. And I remember going, I got to get out of this. And I remember I'm like, I need to leave this job. I need to leave California, the toxicity of this environment. But it took me just a lot of things happening in my life to be like, I gotta go. Mm-hmm. And it was years. I mean, I was there for 10 years. And I remember going, I gotta get out of here. And then all of a sudden, my little sister was having a baby. She's like, come home and be here with the baby for me for the birth, because she did a home birth, which was an amazing, beautiful experience. So I came home with her. My lease just happened to be ending. And a few things had happened to where it was literally pushing me out the door to be like, go, girl, go. So I got out of California. I just remember I was craving the mountains and the lakes again, and just peace. Mm-hmm. I just started to just go, I live literally 5 minutes from the beach, and I am so stressed out that I can't even get to the beach and go for a walk. Like, there's no time in my day. I remember I was so miserable that I couldn't even go outside. I had too much to do. And I just remember going, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I should be thriving, and I'm not. And I'm like, something is up. And I just remember I just had to get quiet enough to listen and just go, I want to go back to the mountains. My sister needs me for the baby. This is the perfect time. My lease is ending. And I'm telling you, I packed up my stuff, put my stuff into storage. And I just remember my body was like pulling me into my car and pulling me. When I left California, it was like, bye. I didn't even look back in my rear view to be like, I'm so sad. I was like, I got to go. It was like my soul already knew, and but it took me that much, this by the universe and life to finally listen, to go, you got to go inward, girl. Like, you keep going on. You're looking for outside validation, outside approval, outside worthiness, and you got to go inward. And it's time to get out of your job, sleep, like chill out and get into peace, go be around your nephews, get some hugs, and let's just start there. So that's what I remember, is just craving, what can I do to bring peace into my life? And let me just start with one thing I can remove, one more thing I can remove. And it was just really, what can I remove? And then what can I nourish with? And that's where I started to go, okay, now I know I just want to learn what is at the root of this. So I started to do some interviews for the summit. And that's when COVID hit. So it was a perfect time for me I went all in on COVID, or during COVID. I used that downtime and that lockdown time to go all in and put the summit together. And that's when it all just pulled me, and it just dropped in right when I finally listened. Yeah.
So beautiful. So
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so just hearing your story. I know how good it feels to be in this place of freedom, and especially when you've gone through such a long period of struggle, and just to be in this place where you're free of all that. And I'm super curious now about two things.
Yeah.
How do you now eat, and what is your relationship with food? And then
Yeah.
I also want to talk about your summit. So
Yeah.
I know what We Crave is a very powerful source of information for so many people looking to really break up with that diet mindset. And so maybe let's just go ahead and start off first with what is your relationship with food currently like? What does your day
Yeah.
look like around exercise and nutrition?
Yeah. Well, after the summit, I learned about 50 different things I didn't know about. One of them was eat real food, which you and I talked about, which you're on the summit too, which I'm stoked. That was such a great conversation. Oh my gosh, amazing. Uh I remember so many people just said, just eat real food. And I just was like, I am eating real food.
Right.
Real food, one ingredient. And I remember that in my head so many times, and I never listened. And because that's too easy. It's got to be harder than that. You've got to punish yourself and eat only this much. And no, 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 no. And then when I came home, I finally started, I had to cook from home because it was COVID, and there was nothing like there was in California there, where there's healthy restaurants everywhere. I finally decided to cook from home, and I started eating the real food, meals. And that's when I noticed, oh my God, I feel so nourished. There is something to this. I would have a nice bed of like vegetables, salmon, sweet potato, olive oil, sea salt. Because I also learned that those toxic oils at the restaurant are horrific for your gut and inflammation. And so I stopped eating out at restaurants. That contributed to the inflammation big time. Oh my God, one of the biggest contributors. And I just started focusing on nourishing foods and whole foods. And to this day, that's what I swear by is when I just focused on cooking from home and whole foods and started lifting weights, that's when everything changed. And making sure I was sleeping, of course, sleeping is like fundamental.
Mhm.
That was my first thing, actually, was sleeping and cooking from home. And then I started weight training, not doing cardio, actual weights, getting in a healthy relationship with weight training. Oh my God, the gateway game changer. I cannot tell you that. And that's what I do today. Make sure I'm sleeping like it's my job, taking my supplements for hydration and just, gut health and I try not to take a ton of supplements, but just the ones that are vital for gut health, everyday health. And then eat real food, lift weights, and make sure you get around hugs and connection and community and nature. I can't even tell you how I feel like a completely different person.
Mm.
And yeah, and my gut, I mean, well, this was on my 40th birthday, a couple years ago. I just turned 42, but you can see like this is me in Tulum,
Yeah.
and
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And this is me just with a year of weightlifting. And it's yeah,
Two
very
different bodies completely. That's insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't counting calories. I
Right.
wasn't doing macro counting. I just was nourishment, 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 whole food, weights. I can't even, I'm like, this is the golden secret. But of course, with the weight loss industries can't make money off of
No.
nourishment. They can't make money off it. So that's why they don't really go there, because they want you stuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
so amazing and so simple, right? And
So
that's the
simple.
thing is really I find you're being so intuitive and listening to your body. And I think that's what it has to come down to is that mindfulness around what I'm eating, just understanding what food
Yep.
is. I mean, my body is going to use whatever I put in it to build itself, right? And so now I get to choose what I want to be made out of. And this is not to demonize any type of
No.
food, but it's just to connect with it in a very loving way because it's through that self love and understanding that I'm putting this in my body because I love myself. I'm putting this in my body because I'm looking for nourishment. And yes, if I want to have that piece of cake, I can. I don't need to have 70 pieces of cake and eat the whole thing, but I can have it. And then again, tune into how does that make me feel? And I think that's where the freedom is really being in that space where you're eating real food and you're honoring your body for where you are right now and what you want to create out of it. And so I love also just this whole idea of the summit, and maybe you can share a little bit on that too.
Yeah.
What brought about, I mean, clearly your own struggles, but what brought about that movement of what we crave?
Yeah, oh, and gratitude, by the way, that's another thing too, is
Gratitude is a big one.
gratitude for my body. I remember just, at the end of a CrossFit workout or hot yoga, I would just remember going, oh my God, thank you, body, for like, just thank you for carrying me. And yes, like eating whole foods is so nourishing. And just, we talk about that on our interview, just the gratitude. When you find gratitude, everything changes. Your body knows it. And it's like, oh, you love me. Thank you. Okay, let's do this. Anyways, and so that's where, with what we crave, I remember that I just wanted to figure out this mess on my own. I remember going, there's something deeper and I need education on this. And if I can just learn why my brain is having the effort moments and the blackout moments, I can stop this and I can change it, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And that's the hardest thing with emotional eating. You have to eat every day. So you get stuck in those loops every day. We talked about that on our interview. You get stuck every day. It's the hardest thing to break. And I just said, I can't do this on my own. I need support. I need a community, because I was listening to the podcast and, I was still going through it. So I just said, I've always wanted to put on my own thing. I've always, this is it pulls me every day. And then COVID hit and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst epidemic of emotional eating of all time. I'm going all in on this. I'm going to figure this out. And I just started filming the interviews and I just felt so alive and in purpose.
Mm.
And I just remember going, this is my gift to the world, 1,000%. I want to go help people. So the summit's free. It's just 50 interviews, including you, on what's underneath emotional eating. And it's a lot of things that have nothing to do with food. And they're experts and real life stories of people like you and I have gone through it. And then also experts that work with women specifically on it and the things you can do that are easy tools that you keep in your little toolbox, and you can, whatever, there's so much information and it's so valuable that you can, when you hear these interviews, you'll know that's me. Oh my God, I need that tool, or that's me, I need that tool. And then you learn all the tools over time and your brain just starts to naturally wire and go, oh, I remember that interview. Oh, I
Mm.
need to go outside and get a walk and get a fresh air. I need to go hug somebody, or I've been behind my computer all day long and I need to go be with real people. And you just start learning these tools and you realize what you're craving is peace, and learning how to backfill from the inside out. It's all of the tools that you need to do that. And yeah, it's free to watch. Just go to whatwecrave.com to sign up to watch. I'm rebranding it right now, so it's getting a little remodel, but it'll be ready hopefully in the next month. And then you just watch it. It's on demand, so you can watch it anytime. Yeah.
So good.
And yeah, I was like, well, if I'm struggling, there's got to be thousands of women that are struggling, because nobody talks about it, because we eat every day. So nobody really talks about it. I
Right.
love that you and I are coming out of the closet with all these conversations, because we're all going through it, or we've all gone through it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
100%. And this is really where it's at, as we mentioned earlier, is this is where the work has to be, and we really have to stop looking for more diets and more ways to really release weight and focus on that as being the issue, because it's not the issue, right?
Right.
And just understanding that we are not just what we eat and how much we move, and it's not about calories in and calories out, and we are human beings with so many different energetic bodies. We're the mind body and we're the emotion body, and all these things need to be addressed. And understanding when they're not addressed, the body will search for a way to soothe itself, first
Yep.
to search for a source of pleasure. And when we are in that cycle of out of control eating, that's what the body is doing. And this is the first
Exactly.
aha moment that there's something missing. I'm not giving my body what it needs, so it's doing it for me, and it's looking for that instant feeling of gratification. And so I love this
Exactly.
topic, and this, it's so interesting. We spoke about this also on I believe your summit. And I've been in this world for, there goes my dogs.
Hashtag real life. I love it.
I,
It's all good. We're all used to it.
All
Yeah.
right, they've got it
We're
down.
used to
So
we're used to real life.
I've
Yeah.
been in this world for 20 some years, and it's
Yep.
so amazing to come to this place where like really this is where it's at, and we
Yep.
have to continue to unite and to share this message with everyone because there's no value in continuing to suffer. And you're right, the diet industry is $1 billion industry. It is the most powerful industry. And once we realize that we're being gypped, we're being told that things can reverse in 20 days or 30 days or 3 months. I mean, that has to be this aha moment, and just us continuing to talk about is really that path to
Yeah.
healing that we all need. So,
Yes.
Erin, I thank you
100%.
so much for this conversation. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap it up today?
Gosh, you're so sweet. I just want to say thank you for having this conversation because these conversations are healing. They need to happen, and in the mainstream, they're not happening. And it's always look outside yourself for be like this, take this, and not no one ever coaches in the mainstream on going inside yourself. So I'm so glad that you and I can have these conversations. It's real talk, and that is community is so healing, and so I'm so grateful to know you and just to have you in my under my women's like badass women that I know in my life in this on this journey in this space. I think for me that was out of 50 interviews. Everyone has their aha moment, but for me I was craving myself. And I think that's what we're really craving. At the end of every interview, I always ask that to each guest, and everyone always has a beautiful answer, and it's all different. But I know I was craving me,
Mm.
and I was craving peace, and I was craving to feel alive. And that's all you. That's all
Mm.
And nobody, oh, I like my
Yeah,
whole hairs are
I
standing up on my
so
arm.
feel that. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
And so I just think, at the end of the day, it's how do you reconnect to yourself again? And only you know those answers. And it's a journey and it doesn't happen over time. But I swear to God, if you show up for life, life will show up for you. And that is one of my favorite lines that I say that I'm very proud of that one because that's the truth. When I started to show up for my life, things started showing up for me. And I feel like that's the universe's way of going, hey girl, oh, we see you. You see yourself. We see you. All right, we got you. Let's go. Like, oh, you're working on this. We see you. Here's a little bit of this. Here's a little bit of this to help you along the way. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's the magic. And that's how I got out of it. So you got to just be quiet with yourself enough to listen to what do you need? What do you crave? What's the next step in life? And just show up for that and life will show up for you.
I love that so much. I love that so much.
Thanks.
I love you so much, and I love this
Love
conversation
you.
so much. And I have a feeling we're gonna do a lot more of these together, Erin, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited about that. So
Yes.
we go to whatwecrave.com to
Yes.
access the summit, and where else can people reach out to you if they have questions?
Yes, I am on Instagram at that health chick. That's just my personal page, but there's some clips of the interviews which you'll be on there too. But yeah, yeah, you can DM me or shoot an email through the website. But that's kind of my two. I'm on Facebook as well, but that health chick is usually where people find me. But yeah, I just thank you again so much, Sherry. You're such a light, and it's just I know this is just the beginning for us in some way, and just expanding, with all of these beautiful women that are coming together and just I love what you're doing and I'm so grateful to know you. So thank you for everything you're doing too.
Thank you so much, girl. I love it. Have a great day, and we'll see each other soon.
You know it.